What's up, my friends, and welcome to the PHLY Phillies podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Hello, I hope you had a good weekend, because the Phillies sure did not. It was a disgustingly brutal weekend for the Phillies, and to be a Phillies fan, and if you were down at the ballpark, my condolences. Maybe you could ask for hazard pay or your money back, especially if you were there on Saturday afternoon. 162-game season, these types of things tend to happen. It's never fun when they do. I am not going to doom and gloom sky is fall. I'm not going to overreact to a bad series or a four-game losing streak, but we are going to break things down throughout the weekend, because there were things throughout each and every one of those games that were certainly frustrating as a Phillies fan. So we'll do all that. So before we do that, though, hello to everybody. Molly and Barkley's Life, K-Red, everybody else in the chat, hello to you. Thanks so much for hanging out with us on this Monday. If you were in the vicinity of the ballpark and have ever thrown meaningful innings, if you were in the vicinity of the ballpark on Saturday, the Phillies may have needed you. I don't know if your arm's loose. I don't know how many pitches you could give them, but it couldn't be much worse than what Saturday unfolded. But there were three games in which the Phillies lost in three different ways, and we're going to break it down in just a second. We have an hour to do as much as we possibly can. We're going to get into this weekend series. We're going to talk to Bob Cooney at 1:30 to get his thoughts on the weekend and heading into this week against the Blue Jays. We're going to do our Ace Hardware temperature check, where we'll check in on who's heating up, no one, who's cooling down, yes. And of course, we'll get into our big deal, as well as we'll talk about one player who is no longer on the Phillies 26-man roster and the player that is going to take his place. So an hour to do all this. Let's jump right into things. With the start of the weekend, there were three games in which the Phillies lost, as I said, three very different ways. They fall out of first place in the National League East as the Mets overtake them. They had a really strong weekend. The Mets are now going to play the schedule that the Phillies did in the early portions of May. I believe the Mets have the Rockies twice coming up over the next couple of weeks, including I think they just wrapped up with the Rockies. A series in which, unsurprisingly, they swept them out in three games. A three-game series, 2 out of 3 against the White Sox. They now have the Dodgers, which is going to be a difficult series. But then they take on the Rockies, the Nationals, and the Rays to get you midway through June. So a lot of the teams that the Phillies played in the early portions of May, it's the Mets' turn. And that's the kind of the beauty and the curse of this balanced scheduling that Major League Baseball has put together over the last couple of years. Is you play everybody, and everybody plays everybody. And the only teams you play more are the teams, obviously, within your division first, and then you'll play less against the AL than the rest of the NL, but you play the rest of the NL a similar amount of times. And so the Mets are now going to find themselves winning a lot of baseball games over the next 2 weeks, and they should. And we talked about that last week. The Mets absolutely should have a good month of June. They started it off strong by sweeping out the Rockies. They have the Rockies again, the Nationals, as we laid out. Like, they should be on a warpath, kind of like the Phillies were on a warpath in the month of May. And so with balanced scheduling, these types of things tend to happen, where the Phillies now are going to start to play some better teams. And you saw that in the month this weekend. Now, I don't think the Milwaukee Brewers are a great team. I think the Milwaukee Brewers were playing some really good ball right now over their last 7 games. I don't think their roster is that good. But the one thing that they do well is be pesky. They're a team that fights for every out. They steal a lot of bags. They are not a heavy offensive team in terms of like pop and OPS and, gaps power and things like that. But with guys at the top of the lineup like Bryce Turang, who is an excellent ball player, Joey Ortiz, and down at the bottom of the lineup, Jackson Chourio, who's going to be a superstar in this league, I think, and a bunch of good players in between with Sal Frelick and Rhys Hoskins. I think that they overperform more times than not. And Pat Murphy got a lot out of them last year. It's why he won the Manager of the Year. And he's getting a lot out of them, at least this week, as they now find themselves not well above 500, but above 500. And they took it out on the Phillies this weekend. Now, with these three games that we saw this weekend, the Phillies were outscored 28-11. And a majority of that came on Saturday when the Brewers won 17-7. But of the 7 runs the Phillies scored on Saturday, I would consider 5 of them garbage time. So if you want to say the Phillies, picked up some garbage runs and the Brewers picked up a couple towards the back end of the game, then it's still like a 25-6 drubbing. The Phillies got thoroughly outclassed this weekend, and there's no two ways about it. They were the worst team of the two in the series. But of all the 3 games that we saw this weekend, Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, there was one game that stood out above the rest as the one that annoyed me the most. And I can guarantee you it's not Saturday. Saturday happens, right? These games happen. Every team gets their butt kicked from time to time. It's a 162 game season. Every team is going to give up 10 or 12 or 15 on occasion. Maybe you do it a couple of times. And in fact, I went back and looked because I saw a tweet this weekend that asked, has a World Series team given up this many runs before? And I went back and I looked. The 2023 Texas Rangers, who won the World Series, gave up 16 in a game that season. The 2019 Washington Nationals, who won the World Series that year, gave up 18 in a game. So, yeah, these things happen. You know, how do you respond after getting your butt kicked? And that's really the test of the mettle of a baseball team. But Saturday was the least of my concerns. Jesus Luzardo was not very good. There's no question about it. It was his worst start, definitively his worst start as a member of the Phillies. He gave up 12 earned runs. From start to finish, this game was kind of a mess. And by the end of the game, it ended up being a joke, right? Weston Wilson comes in to pitch. We're on Twitter talking about anything that's not, baseball related or at least Phillies related. It was probably the least frustrating of the 3 games just because, as I said, teams get their butts kicked from time to time. And the Phillies at some point are going to kick another team's butt. It happens. It's baseball. Jesus Luzardo should not have seen as many hitters as he did. There's no question in my mind that Rob Thomson and the Phillies were desperately trying to get Jesus Luzardo through 4 innings. Because if you could have gotten through 4 innings and he gave up 5 or 6, you would have gone, okay, bad start, but he was able to get us 12 outs. Now the bullpen only has to get 15. And then you can start saying, okay, Joe Ross for 2, Jose Ruiz for 2, who we'll talk about later, Carlos Hernandez for 1. You start piecemealing this thing together and you say, we're just trying to eat 15 outs. Luzardo wasn't good. We likely don't win this game, but we can move on. So I think what Rob Thomson was trying to do was desperately get Jesus Luzardo through 12 outs. Wasn't able to do that. Luzardo only goes 3 1/3. He gives up 12 earned runs. Even with that being said, I think the Phillies left Jesus Luzardo in there too long. There is such a thing, as I mentioned with a team, there is such a thing over a 162 game season where a manager has to turn to a starting pitcher and say, listen, dude, we got a lot of ball games to play over the next 2 weeks. We got a lot of baseball left to play this weekend. I just need you to kind of stay out there. You're going to get shellacked. You don't have your best stuff, but I need you to stay out there and kind of take your lumps and get me through X amount of innings. I think about a start last year that Taijuan Walker made where he had nothing and he was getting crushed. And the Phillies were in the midst of a downturn. And Rob Thomson went to Taijuan Walker and basically said, hey, man, I'm sorry, you're out there again. And Taijuan Walker said, all right, give me the ball. I know I'm not pitching well, but give me the ball. And I think sometimes managers just try to get their guys through that. In Saturday's game, I think they let Jesus Luzardo. He was too long into the game. And at some point, you just have to recognize the writing on the wall. His ERA spiked from 2.15 to 3.58. It's a 1.43 difference between his ERA heading into the game and heading out of the game. And I'm sure you've probably heard this by now. He becomes the first Philly starter to give up 12 earned runs in a start since 1947. And the one before that was a guy by the name of Boom Boom Beck, who is a real person, I swear to you. And I have a great story about Boom Boom Beck that I want to share with Bob Cooney when he comes on at 1:30, because I think he'll appreciate this as a scribe, a basketball scribe, a baseball scribe. I think he'll appreciate this story. But that's the kind of, history. I mean, it is history. It's bad history, but that's the kind of history you're talking about, where it's been almost 80 years since a Philly starter has given up 12 earned runs. But you can take a look at this game on Saturday and almost flush it. I'm not going to say ignore it because things happen. Moves were made because of Saturday, but I think you can almost flush Saturday's game because it was so bad. Friday's game has a little bit more juice to it. Friday's game, I thought that the biggest issue with the Phillies on Friday was the fact that Quinn Priester got everything that he wanted on the mound. Now, Taijuan Walker got hit around a little bit early. The Brewers did a good job of jumping on starting pitching for most series until Ranger Suarez came into play, and we'll talk about Ranger in just a second. But they did a good job of jumping on Walker early. They got to the bullpen a little bit later. But my issue on Friday was the Phillies offense. DL Hall pitched in the game. He got the start. Quinn Priester was the bulk innings guy. He ended up throwing 6 innings. And the Phillies grounded out 16 times in 6 innings. Quinn Priester, heavy sinker guy, as you can tell, loves to get ground balls. And that's kind of his MO, right? So we got 16 ground ball outs in 6 innings. He has a 58% ground ball rate, which puts him in the 94th percentile of all of baseball. It's what he does. He throws heavy sinker. He goes off speed. He keeps you off balance. He doesn't throw crazy hard, but that's what Quinn Priester does. Now, the problem that I had with not only just grounding out 16 times, 9 of the 16 ground outs were hit at under 90 miles an hour. So it was just not a lot of competitive at-bats on Friday night against the guy who you kind of know what his MO is. He's going to pound the lower third with strikes, with the sinker specifically, and then he's going to work below that. You don't see a lot of stuff up in the zone from Quinn Priester. There's not a lot at the letters. There's not a lot at the belt. It's belt to knees. And then it's knees below with the breaking ball. And that's kind of what he did. And so it was one of the more frustrating games of the weekend compared to Saturday, but it wasn't the worst. The worst game of the weekend was Sunday. And I don't think it was particularly close. And the reason that Sunday's game was the worst of the 3 was because it was a very winnable game. I'm not mad about Saturday. I flushed Saturday as a whatever. I'm not going to forget it. Like, they got crushed and it was kind of, it was unenjoyable to watch. But in the pantheon of like ranking which game was the most annoying, there's no question in my mind the most annoying or the least annoying was Saturday. The most annoying game was last night because the Phillies had an opportunity to win that game on a multitude of different levels. I think 3 things stand out to me about why Sunday was the one that pissed me off the most and why it was such a winnable game. The first thing that stands out to me is Ranger Suarez. He was good once again. Ranger Suarez, as we talked about him on Friday with the Ranger Suarez is a pitcher's pitcher. And it happened again on Sunday, right? We were talking about the excellence of Ranger Suarez and what makes Ranger Suarez so effective. It's that even when Ranger doesn't have his best stuff, because Ranger's not a crazy hard thrower. He doesn't have wipeout slider. But what Ranger has is it's between the ears. It's cerebral. He is the definition of a pitcher. He's never been a thrower, and he's gotten more and more smart as his career has gone on. He knows how to attack hitters. He knows how to attack them, keeping them off balance and using his repertoire, his pitch mix to his advantage. He's got good stuff. He doesn't have great stuff, but he's got 5 good pitches. He throws 6, and I think 5 of them have become good. Even the cutter, which was to me a little bit concerning earlier in his career, has become a better pitch. And so he knows how to keep guys off balance. He keeps you frustrated. You see 91, 92 up in the zone, but it's got that little life at the end. It's the cutter movement at the end. It's the sinker run back at the end, or it's the slow breaking ball that he throws just off the plate where it feels like, especially as a right-handed hitter, okay, this thing's coming back. It's coming back. And it never came back. And then you swing over top, or you beat something into the ground to Bryson Stott, and it's a cheap out for you. And Ranger gets another one. He's been so darn good at knowing how to be a pitcher that this is just his MO at this point, right? He didn't get a ton of swing and miss yesterday. He only got 5 whiffs in the game. He also gave up 7 hits, but like in classic Ranger fashion, he got the outs when he needed to get the outs. And the best thing about Ranger that consistently seems to happen is that he is a guy who gets a lot of soft contact. Yesterday, the average exit velocity off of Ranger Suarez was 86.2 miles an hour. The Brewers hit 5 balls off of him at 95 miles an hour or more. They had 15 balls in play at under 90 miles an hour. 15 batted balls under 90 miles an hour. He kept them off the board for the first 4 innings. He gave up the run in the 5th, but it was 2-1 at the end of the 6th. Was I a little bit surprised that Ranger Suarez came back out for the 7th? I was. Not because I thought he had an enormous pitch count. I think he was at 90 pitches. But because it seemed like that was the kind of start that Rob Thomson would go, great game. Let's get you out of there on the high note. And I'll get you out of here with 6 innings of 1-run ball, and you're going to leave the game with the lead. So Ranger comes back out, and he gives up the double. And that's where the second part of this game comes into play. On top of Ranger Suarez being excellent yesterday, the defense, part number 2, stunk when it mattered most. Absolutely stunk when it mattered most. On the last batted ball of the day, the last batter that Ranger Suarez faced was Caleb Durbin. And I put in air quotes doubled because it's a double in the scorebook, right? I get it. It's a double in the scorebook. Nobody touched the ball. Nobody made an error. But there should be like this subcategory of almost mental errors. How do I get a mental error in the scorebook? Because Weston Wilson took one of the worst routes I've ever seen to a ball. He started in, backpedaled, made a banana peel route to the ball, and then it ended up going over his head and dumping off the wall, and it was a double for Caleb Durbin. Does that ball get caught? I don't know if that ball gets caught by an everyday left fielder, but I would venture a guess to say that it probably does. And if we go to that ball specifically and we take a look at the box score play on it, and excuse me, I'm trying to do this on the fly here. It had an expected batting average of 260. The ball came off the bat at 97 miles an hour, so it wasn't a cheapie, right? It wasn't a blooper that got caught up in the air, but the ball came off the bat at 97 miles an hour and had a 260 expected batting average. That's slightly above league batting average. So that tells me that that ball, more times than not, is going to be caught by an outfielder. This brings me to the question of why was Weston Wilson out there at that time? Now, I know the running thing with Rob Thomson is when Rob Thomson gives a player off, he likes to give them the full day. Fine. No problem with that. Under the guys that you have the game in control or you're getting beat. So, for example, if the Phillies were Saturday's game, if Kepler didn't start, if the pitching tandem was reversed and Quintana had started on Saturday and Kepler got, sat down because of the lefty on the mound, and it's 17-0 or 17-3 or whatever it was when Chad Patrick left the game for the Brewers, no big deal. Just whatever, fine. I'm okay with it. You're looking to give a guy, get a guy off his feet, give him a day off. Totally fine. This was a winnable game. This was a game that you should have won or could have won. And I don't think in that scenario it makes sense to leave the guy who's not a natural left fielder in the game for defensive purposes. You could have put Kepler out there. And I'm not sitting here telling you that I think Max Kepler is this world-class defender, but he's a much better defender than Weston Wilson. And I think that was another mistake that Rob Thomson made. I don't think Rob Thomson was very good yesterday. I'm just going to put it out there. I've been a Rob Thomson supporter. One game is not going to change my opinion on Rob Thomson. I just don't think he was very good last night. I thought he left Ranger in the 7th. I get what you're trying to do. I wouldn't have done it. I'd have gone to Kirkering right away. And then again, in left field, you got to go with the defensive upgrade with the opportunity with that game still being on the line. So that's a problem. So then Orion Kirkering comes into the game, and a few batters later, this is where the bigger problem starts. Trea Turner boots a ground ball that would have been the third out of the game, even with the ball in left field, the run scores. Trea Turner boots a ball that would have left the game at 2-2. Now, I'm going to apologize in advance for this crude screen grab that I took. This looks like I grabbed this on like a 2006 Motorola Razr. But this is the shot that I grabbed from a still shot of the video of where Trea Turner was. And the reason that I did this, I'm not going to harp on a guy for too much. Like I always talk about, mental mistakes are more annoying to me than physical mistakes. And the physical mistake happens. You boot a ball, you drop a fly ball, you strike out, whatever those. I always talk about mental mistakes over physical mistakes in terms of which one annoys me more. But the reason that I show you this today is because Trea Turner did not have to move. Like literally didn't have to go anywhere. I think he took a half a pivot step to his right, and that was it. And that's the reason that I show you that, because in that spot, in that scenario, that ball cannot be bobbled. That ball has to be caught. And even if it is knocked down in front of you, William Contreras was running. William Contreras is not fast. I don't know if you know that or not. I don't know if Trea Turner knows that or not, but William Contreras' sprint speed is in the 24th percentile across Major League Baseball. Trea Turner had time. Now, the ball was hit hard. I get it. It was 101, but it was hit right at him. He legitimately almost did not have to move. And then, as it turns out, as most of the time happens, when you give a team free outs, especially teams that are playing well like the Brewers have played over the last week, it comes back to bite you because the next batter, Jake Bauers, doubles, plates 2 more, and from there, that's ball game, right? So I think that one to me, like the Weston Wilson one is egregious because he shouldn't have been out there. But in that scenario, I think in that timeline, Trea Turner has to catch that ball. That ball can't be bobbled. I get it. Again, mental mistakes annoy me more than physical mistakes. And I'm not going to single out Trea Turner just because it was the apex important moment of the game defensively and it turned the tides. But I think in that scenario, ball has to be caught. Now we're talking about a guy who now has 45 errors in his first 2.5 seasons as a member of the Phillies. As I said on John Marks' show today, only Elly De La Cruz has more errors than Trea Turner since the start of 2023. That's all players. It's not just shortstops. That's all players. And the 45 errors have come back to bite them. And so, again, I'm not going to sit here and put the entirety of the game at the feet of Trea Turner because number 3, and I think this was the third problem in yesterday's game, is that the Phillies offense floundered against a starting pitcher who did not have good stuff early in the game. Jose Quintana has owned the Phillies over the last 2 seasons, and Quintana's pitched well this year. I have to tip my cap to Quintana for becoming a pitcher. And I don't mean just a major league pitcher. I'm talking about as the pitcher in the sense of like the Ranger Suarez type of pitcher. Quintana's another guy, lefty, doesn't throw particularly hard, but he's the type of guy that's kind of reinvented his career a little bit as he's gotten older. Never has been a hard thrower, never has had wipeout stuff, but over the last 3 or 4 years, he's really honed in on his stuff, has gone more to the moving fastballs and away from the 4-seam fastballs, wants to get ground ball outs and weak outs, and is willing to attack you because of the fact that he trusts his defenders behind him. And so I give Jose Quintana credit. But yesterday, and especially early in the game, he was not settled. In the first 2 innings, he walked Trea Turner, Nick Castellanos, Bryson Stott, and Johan Rojas. And the Phillies were able to get 2 runs out of that, and that's great. They were able to pick up a couple of runs on a guy who did not have his best stuff early. But after that inning, the Phillies were 2 for 11 the rest of the way against Jose Quintana. He pitched 5 last night. Johan Rojas had a single. Edmundo Sosa had a single. That was it. He only threw 82 pitches yesterday because I think, and properly so, the Mets realized they got enough out of him. It's time to turn things over to the bullpen. 34% of Jose Quintana's pitches yesterday were in the zone. 24% were whiffs or called strikes. He got strikes, called, or whiffs on less than a quarter of his pitches. For a guy who has dominated the Phillies over the last 2 seasons, this was his probably least sharp stuff, his dullest stuff, if you will. And the Phillies weren't able to get anything off of him. So all of those things combined, defensive miscues, inability to get on a starter who was struggling, and the fact that Ranger Suarez was excellent in yesterday's game and got nothing to show for it. Sunday was by far the most frustrating game of the weekend series. Phillies dropped 3 in a row. There's nothing else to be said. They lost 3 straight. They've now lost 4 straight games. You can flush series. I have no issue with that. Move on. Think about Toronto. But you have to be cognizant of the things that went wrong in the series. And on Friday and Sunday specifically, I think a lot of things went wrong. Saturday, whatever. It is what it is. All right. In just about 5 minutes, we're going to talk to Bob Cooney. But before we do that, we are very, very late for a break. I apologize to Andrew, who's producing today's show. Let's pause here on the PHLY Phillies podcast to take care of some business and tell you about some of our friends. All right, you know that Ace is the place with the helpful hardware folks, but do you know they're the place with the helpful hardware home service team as well? That's right. Whether you've got an outlet that you said that you needed fixing last summer, or it's something more specific or significant like plumbing, electric, heating, cooling, they have the trusted pros that keep your home humming all year long. Again, they're the helpful home service folks and helpful home repair folks. If you're like me, who's not very handy, I can do the basic stuff, but anything more than that, I'm going to need some help. And that's why I call my friends over at Ace Hardware Home Service. They bring the helpful home. That helpful that you love from the store is now right at your front door in Jersey, from Philly, to the Jersey Shore. I understand that the weather's been fluctuating. It's been a weird couple of weeks, but the warm is going to start soon, and you want to get that AC fixed before it is time to start thinking about getting the cool air in your house. So visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get you started on your next project. And while we're here, let's talk about our presenting sponsor, our friends over at Bet365, because whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And find out why 90 million users worldwide trust Bet365 with all of their betting needs. It's not just the big sports. 78 sports you can bet on. A live in-game platform. It's the best live in-game platform in all of betting. And how about this? New customers right now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5, whether you win or lose. So sign up, use the promo code PHLY365, deposit just your first $10, and bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets, whether you win or you lose. Bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, whatever it is, and whatever the moment. That's why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Pardon me. Hello. Welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. All right, let's say hello to everybody in the chat before we turn things over to our buddy Bob Cooney. Hello to Molly and Barkley's Life, K-Red, Mopar, Peeling Onions, Ray Schumacher, Futz, Filthy McNasty. Hello to everybody that's hanging in the chat. We're going to chat with Bob Cooney in just a little bit. Lively chat, as always, today. And yes, hello to Andrew Frazier, who's producing the show as well. Peeling Onions, no, absolutely no chance you're going to be able to move Trea Turner and acquire Jacob Wilson for a multitude of reasons. First and foremost, the A's are cheap. They don't want to pay Trea Turner. I don't think that they would say yes to that trade right now. I don't think they would say yes to that trade if the money were even closer. But I think with the money being what it is and Jacob Wilson being under team control for the next 38 years, I think that that's not a plausible outcome. Futz, that is something I've harped on a lot. You almost trust Trea Turner on the acrobatic defensive stops more than the routine. I 100% have agreed with that sentiment. And the reason I think it is because when Trea Turner, especially when he's able to range to his right, when he has to go backhand glove side or backhand glove arm side, reach up and make the throw, he doesn't think about it. He just makes the play. And I think when he has routine and he has time, listen, I'm not in the head of Trea Turner. He's a major league shortstop. He's been a serviceable defensive shortstop in his career. It's gotten worse as his career's gone on. But I tend to agree with you. I think when he makes the trickier plays, the non-routine plays, I think he just instinctively goes, right? It's just that like snap play where he just makes the play and goes. When there's routine, I do think he starts to think about it a little bit. No, Ray, the money is the concern the other way. The A's would not want to acquire the money. I know you're joking. They're not going to take on any more money. They've got two players in Jacob Wilson, as just mentioned, and Mason Miller, who are under enormous team control. Both excellent players. But no, they're not going to move either of those guys. They're building a foundation in Sacramento that is starting to become a good one. Between Wilson and Mason Miller, Brent Rooker signed an extension recently. I think it was earlier in the season or maybe into the offseason. Lawrence Butler is a darn good player. And they've got some more guys along the way. Like I think Tyler Soderstrom has kind of entrenched himself as a member of that team. Same thing with Shea Langoliers. It's a good team, a good young team that I think is still not quite ready. But it's why I said at the beginning of the year, I think they're going to compete all the way to the end, and then they'll falter just because I don't think they have quite enough pitching just yet. But I think the A's are going to be good, assuming they want to spend some money. Now, they spent money on Luis Severino, but I think once they're willing to spend some significant money in an offseason, maybe 2 years from now, I think the A's will kind of do what the Flyers do, or are going to do, where the Flyers and the A's, they'll dip the toe in the free agent market a little bit this offseason, and then the next one, if they're on the trajectory that they should be, I think that's where they'll start to really make their mark. Bob Cooney is going to join us in just about 2 minutes. Bob, I apologize. I made the first segment way too long, so I do just have to pay a couple of more bills. I know. I see you shaking your head. I can see you down at the bottom there, Bob. You can make fun of me when we bring you on. 2 minutes, I promise. These will be quick ad reads, but let's pause for just a moment and tell you about some more of our friends right here at PHLY. All right, let's start with Game Time. I've been telling you about the Game Time app for a while, and it's not just about getting the best seats in sports. Whether you're thinking about going to a ball game this summer, or you can get in on all the concert action, comedy action. If you want to get on your TED Talks, you can get those tickets at Game Time as well. They have everything, and they are the best ticketing app on the market, because you want to think about the NFL season that's right around the corner, or at least it feels like it. You can get scoring NFL tickets the fastest way and the easiest way with this exclusive discounts. You're going to be able to find seats that are as low as $100. And with the Game Time guarantee, it means you can trust that you'll get 100% authentic NFL tickets on time and at the best price. And for me, the best thing about Game Time is that the fees are always included. No upfront, or all upfront pricing, no hidden fees, no you put your credit card information in, and then all of a sudden you're paying more than you were expecting to pay. They tell you exactly up front what you're paying, why you're paying it, and where that money is going to. So Game Time makes getting tickets faster and easier, and the prices actually go down on Game Time as you get closer to first pitch, to the first song, to the first act, whatever the case may be. Game Time has you covered. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use the code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. And if you're a small business owner and if you're looking to hire, there's never been a better time to link up with LinkedIn, because your small business, I know it's on your mind 24/7, and you want a team that's going to find you the candidate that grinds just as hard as you do. So LinkedIn now offers features that are going to help you write your job descriptions and then get your jobs in front of people with the right candidate insight as quickly as possible. Now you can post your job one of two ways, either for free, or you can pay to promote, and promoted jobs get 3 times more qualified candidates and qualified applicants. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing to you is your small business, and your quality of candidate with LinkedIn is going to help improve that quality, or improve that business, and improve your bottom line and make things better for you. Based on LinkedIn data, 72% of small businesses using LinkedIn say that LinkedIn has helped them find a high quality candidate. So you find out why more than 2.5 million small businesses have used LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Phillies. Once again, linkedin.com/Phillies to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, that was as close to 2 minutes as I possibly could make it, but welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. And let's welcome in our every Monday guest. Didn't get a chance to talk to him last Monday because we were off. It's our buddy Bob Cooney. Bob, enjoying the weather, it looks like.
Tyler, how are you, buddy?
Doing well. I would be remiss if I didn't say you've got a setup that I'm jealous of. You got the pool behind you. You got a beautiful day behind you. It looks like a good day for you.
I'm in the middle of power washing the back of the house, Tyler. So, yeah, beautiful for some, work day for others. But no, I can't complain, dude. It's beautiful out today. Hopefully when you get done, you can get outside for a little bit and, get some color on that face.
So a beautiful day after a pretty rough weekend for the Phils. I spent like 25 minutes explaining why Sunday was the one that really kind of bugged me of the 3 games. So we'll get to that in just a second. When you see a game like Saturday, 17-7, it really wasn't even that close. When you see a game like Saturday, are you of the mindset where it's just baseball teams sometimes get butt kicked over 162 games, or is there more to it than that?
Oh, no, there's no question that's just a game that happens, Ty. It's a blowout in basketball. It's a 6-0 in hockey. It's, those games happen, and you hope that you bounce back from it. It brought back memories. Like, I remember covering a game one time. I think the pitcher's name was like Boom Boom Beck or something. I was covering the game, and he gave up 12 earned runs. It was a couple years ago. But now that those games happen. I heard you earlier. Those games happen, and the good teams, Ty, as you know, and I say this all the time, the good teams have to react to it. How do you do it? Does it piss you off? Do you get a day off and say, or 2 days off and say, all right, here we go, when you get up to Toronto and try to wipe it away? Ranger gave you a great enough outing yesterday that you should have won that game. And Yeah, you're right. It does piss you off. Now we had to do some traveling yesterday for, we had to go to a funeral that was like an hour and a half away. So I was in the car and listening to the frustration over the plays by Weston Wilson and the play by Trea Turner. Those are things you can't have happen. And will they once in a while? Sure. But again, the sign of a good team and a great team is how do you bounce back from it? This series in Toronto is going to be a little telltale.
Yeah, I've said for a while, like the physical mistakes, booted balls, strikeouts with runners in scoring position, it's part of baseball and it's part of sports, right? To err is
Right.
human. Mental errors drive me more crazy in the specific vacuum sample size of Trea Turner in that play, in that situation. You almost swing back the other way of can't happen. It just in that spot just can't happen.
No, and it happens too much, and that's what's starting to frustrate people. It's like dumping down to, I don't know, Joel Embiid on the block, and 9 times or 8 times out of 10 he catches it and dunks it. Remember those days? And then there's twice that he'll go to catch it and it'll just slip through his hands when nobody's around. That happens too much with Trea Turner. Like ground balls, nobody around. I love what you put up earlier, Tyler. He didn't have to move for the ball. And a hard hit ball is one that you'd rather have. Like it's the slow rollers. It's the easy catch in football with no DB around. Those are the harder ones. Those are the harder plays to make because you have time to think about it. It's a reactionary play, 102 miles an hour off the bat. Boom, there it is. You're in position. Catch the ball. Catch the ball and throw to first so where, make the out. And it does. It gets so frustrating. And you just knew, I don't know, maybe it was from the day before a 17-7 game or whatever. You just knew that Milwaukee was going to take advantage of it. And they certainly did.
Yeah, I think good teams or teams at least that are playing well at the time, and now Milwaukee's on a 7-game winning streak, those type of things, you can't give free outs away. And they gave actually probably multiple free outs away. Weston Wilson's is ruled a double because it's not an error, but that's I wish there was a Substack error of like, dude, what the bleep,
Yeah.
poor route. It's kind of like in the NFL when a quarterback gets charged with an interception after the ball pops off of a receiver's hands and pops up in the air and a DB makes the play. There should be like, dropped ball interceptions. I think there should be not errors, but poor decision-making led to that play.
Yeah, and then, if you want to go, the woe is me kind of route, which we're not doing, but when things aren't going well for you, how about you get 2 strikes on a batter before Turner makes the error and the ump doesn't call it, right?
Sure.
I believe that was the same batter. So, it's just things didn't go well over these past 4 games. You kind of were in a luxury, right? You're winning 9 in a row. You come home and Suarez gives you a great game. And then you get the game from Marchand where he throws a couple guys out and gets hit by a pitch and he hits a home run and all those things. And you're riding high. And then you hit a reality that night in the second game of a doubleheader. And then Milwaukee comes in and just swung. I mean, they swung bats among Yelich and Hoskins. And they just, they were just putting the ball all over the place. And Trea was on base, it seemed like all weekend long. So, all right, those things happen. And there wasn't any grave type of thing like, is this going to last? I don't think. All right, Wheeler had a bad outing. Okay, maybe you're a little worried about the bullpen because it seems to me high leverage, it's going to go the same thing all the time. And it's going to be Kerkering and it's going to be Strom and it's going to be Romano. Is that good enough? I don't know. I mean, that's something you have to look out for. But gravely disappointing or to be alarmed moving forward, I'm not really there, Tyler.
No, I'm not either. Listen, they've lost 4 straight, and yeah, they got pretty handled on both sides of the ball this weekend, and it tends to happen. So you bring up the bullpen, and an interesting move made by the Phillies is Mick Abel is going to head back into the rotation, and Taijuan Walker will now move into what Rob Thomson kind of alluded to as leverage roles. I'm skeptical of Walker as a high leverage reliever. I'm curious your thoughts as to what you think he can be in this like 5th new role for Taijuan, who just continues to be a consummate professional, by the way. But curious your thoughts on what he will bring to this new role.
And God bless him for being a professional. I mean, that is. People say, well, he's making $18 million. It's still tough. It is still hard to be a professional and be put in all these different positions. However, I will say, we talked like 3 weeks ago, I think, and Taijuan Walker was in the midst of his I don't know what, 4 starts and a 2.38 ERA, and you were going on, rightfully so. And I just sat here and shook my head. Do I think he's a good high leverage pitcher? I'm sorry, Tyler. Love him to death. Great that he's being a pro. I don't think he's a professional baseball pitcher anymore. I just don't. I don't trust him in there. I don't think he can give you one or two, maybe here or there. But, you're starting to ride a little bit of that. Too many of the guys in the bullpen are up or down, whether it be Strom, whether it be Kirkering, Romano. Sure, that's what guys are. But you need somebody to solidify, somebody that you know is going to come in and give you. Now, you're never going to get Brad Lidge again. You're not going to get 48 saves and 48 opportunities. But can you get someone like a Madsen back then or a J.C. Ramirez, just somebody that 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, you can trust to come in and do the job? I don't know who they have that can do that, Tyler. And is it getting to the point of maybe they just don't? I don't know, but the least of my confidence in this team throughout the year has probably been the bullpen.
I think that's fair. I think it was a question coming into the season. You lose Hoffman and Estevez, and you bring in Romano, who, fair or unfair, was being questioned about, returning from injury. And he started off slow, has been more good than bad over the last month of the season. But I still think they were an arm short heading into the year, just by sheer numbers. And so
Right.
I think now with losing Alvarado, even if you don't want to say Rob Thomson doesn't commit to a closer. It's really never been his thing. And even if you still want to say we're not committing to a closer, we're a leverage by committee type of staff, I think it's fair to say you probably needed one heading into the season. And now more than likely, you probably need two.
Yeah, no question. And where do you find it? I mean, I know you did some moves here where, you bring up Abel to start on Thursday, bring up another reliever. You're looking for it, right? Like, who's hot? Who can we go to? Is that what Rob Thompson's going to say? Okay, it looks like Kirkering's pitching well. Maybe I'll move him and I'm talking as if I'm Rob Thompson. Maybe I'll move him to the closer spot and make Romano the 8th inning guy, or maybe among the three of them with Strom included, you're going to go with the hot hand. But when you look at those three guys, and I'll say it's, at least in my gut, Ty, throughout the season, those three guys, it's a kind of hold your breath. Okay, here they come. Is it going to be good or bad? Strom gives you a good, 1, 2, 3 yesterday, but we saw the home runs last week. And Kirkering, you just kind of don't know. And Romano, we talked about it the other day when he pitched the night game in, I guess it was in Sacramento. To me, it looked like he was drinking before the game. He was falling off the mound. He was swirly twirly. It was kind of head scratching. So that you need arms there. You need arms to get hot, and Rob Thomson has to have confidence in more than just three guys, Ty.
So I guess the question then in turn is, if you're going to, outside of the organization, look for somebody, what's the threshold of prospects that you're willing to depart from?
Well, the funny thing is, and I wanted to bring this up to you today, and you and I both listen to so many different things, and we read so many different things, is this popular concept of trading either Ranger Suarez or McAble, or, oh, you have so many pitchers, look to trade and maybe get what you need. I got to tell you, Ty, I am not there at all. I do not want to trade one of these pitchers. Zach Wheeler's 35 years old. And as great as he is in a couple more years left, that's awesome. He's 35 years old. You kind of, in my mind, have to protect against that. I don't know where Aaron Nola is. There's a lot of innings on that shoulder and arm. And I believe, 32 now, Ty, somewhere around there. Like, where's that? I don't know. So to trade away a guy to plug in and try to win a World Series, I'm not saying you're building for the future, but I think there has to be some kind of a medium here where you say, well, okay, you're going to get rid of a really good prospect in order to get a left fielder, a center fielder. I don't know about that when you have what seems to be those guys in the minor leagues. I'm trying to get this team better now, and maybe a deeper prospect for an arm that you hope can be hot for the last part of the year out of the bullpen.
So I think with the Ranger situation, for probably 4 months now, I did a video back in February talking about the likely scenario is the Phillies lose Ranger Suarez in free agency next year. I just think a team is going to overpay for him. A guy that they can trust to give you 150, 170 innings if he stays healthy. Lefty, who we've all raved about because of his headiness and his ability to pitch in big situations. I think he's going to get a big contract. So I think the likeliest scenario is that this is probably the final year for Ranger Suarez. With that being said, I just don't think it benefits them this season to move Ranger, considering A, how good he's been since his return, and B, if you truly do need an arm in the postseason who could be your weapon, your Swiss Army knife, the likely scenario is it probably would be him. Now, I get not wanting to move him in the regular season because Ranger's not going to want to do it. Scott Boras is not going to want to do it. And I don't think the Phillies are going to want to do it considering how good he's been as a starter. But postseason could be a different conversation. I think with Abel, you find yourself in a logjam that if they were to move a young arm, because they're not moving Painter, they adore the kid. So with Abel, I think you find yourself with a kid who is major league ready and could, in fact, return you that high leverage reliever or your everyday center fielder. If they were to look to move one of those two guys you brought up, I think Abel would be the one that they would move.
Yeah, and probably. And, as you go throughout this season, you have to think, what if it's not as black and white as, okay, you get rid of an Abel, you have your 5 starting pitchers. Well, what if Nola doesn't come around? What if it's like, it's kind of odd with this sprained ankle. And, you and I have had sprained ankles before. And, yeah, a lot of times they take a long time to heal. But my reading off of it when he got hurt was, really? Or are they just kind of sitting him a little bit?
Felt like a phantom injury initially.
Yeah, exactly. So now is he throwing on the side and they're getting to the point of, well, I don't know if it's all that great. I don't know. So you got to keep an eye on that. You got to move forward. At the same time, try to win now. So that's why Dave Dombrowski makes the big money, because that's what he has to figure out, Ty.
They have a plethora of young prospects that I don't think are quite ready yet, but I think are going to be good major leaguers. And I think you and I might have talked about it a couple of weeks ago. This is the first time in a long time where I feel really comfortable and confident with the prospect pool the Phillies have right now, between the big guns and then the guys that are, a little bit away still, like Ramon Escobar and Eduardo Taillé. Like, they have a group now that I think could be good for them.
It's something that we've never seen before, or I haven't in a long time, Ty, and that's you have a situation where you're good now and you could be good in the future. And that's a really good thing. And as I said, something that I haven't seen in a long, long time, you maybe never have seen in your career. So it's a good place to be. It's I don't know. Is it something that they know how to deal with? You would think so, because that's who Dave Dombrowski is. But other than that, we'll see. We'll see how this gets handled. But it's a major cog in winning now and keeping the assets that you have for the future.
Bob, appreciate you as always. Head on over to allphly.com to check out all of Bob's latest pieces. I do have a question for you before we go. Are we going to see you at the PHLY second annual golf outing next weekend?
June 14th. Heard I was paired with this big bald guy, Jamie something or other. So I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, can't wait to be out there.
Shorts and flip-flops to work. I don't know.
Every time I golf with Jamie, he falls down. So everybody be prepared. He's going to have dirt on him somewhere. I don't know what his deal is. Maybe too many transfusions. But yeah, June 14th, can't wait. Valley Brook, right? Valley Brook Country Club. Yep. Over in Blackwood, New Jersey. I've played there plenty of times. So looking forward to seeing everybody, seeing you. And yeah, it's going to be a great day. Can't wait.
Cannot wait. Bob, you are the best. Again, check out Bob's work at allphly.com. And Bob, we will check back in with you next Monday as we wrap up the 2 series this week. So thanks so much for taking some time as always.
Thank you, Ty. Name of the day, Boom Boom Beck.
Boom Boom Beck is going to be a great story that we're going to tell in just a little bit. There's Bob Cooney as he joins us on the PHLY Phillies podcast. We have a lot to do in the next 11 minutes. So let's pause for just a moment. We have one more ad break to hit. Then we have to hit our Ace Hardware temperature check of the day. We also have to hit our big deal segment of the day. So let's do all of it in the next 10 minutes right here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. All right. One more ad read, as I made mention. And of course, let's start with our friends over at Monarch Money, because finances, especially nowadays, can be messy and confusing. Monarch Money is an incredible app that acts like your personal CFO, and they give you full visibility and flexibility to control exactly what you need to, so you can stop just earning and start growing your financial portfolio, whatever step of the way in finances you're in. It's more than just your average budgeting app. They have a complete financial command center that allows you to see all of your accounts, your investments, your goals, and you're not just going to manage your money. You can start really building on some of your wealth. Now, listen, managing money at any step of the way is a difficult task. I mentioned last week, one of the things that my wife and I did was finally set up some future accounts for our infant, so that when he is 18 and ready to make a decision on school or trade or whatever the case may be, he's going to have some financial flexibility along the way, because college is stupid expensive nowadays. And I can't imagine it's just going to get worse as we go. So you have to start as soon as you can. So that's something that we did. We're also looking to put some money aside for a home eventually. We have a lot on our plate right now. And so with Monarch Money, you're able to track all of those things all in one convenient spot. It is the top recommended personal finance app by users and experts with over 30,000 five-star reviews. So get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use the code PHLY at monarchmoney.com for half off your first year. Once again, monarchmoney.com with the code PHLY saves you 50% off your first year. All right, one final read before we get out of here. Well, before we get into our other segments, my friends over at Shady Rays. I've been wearing Shady Rays forever now, and the reason is because incredible optics, crystal clear lens frames, or crystal clear lenses. The frames are incredibly comfortable. They come in all shapes and sizes, whether you're looking for sleek, sporty, aviator, snow goggles for next snow season. You can get them all at shadyrays.com. And it's why 300,000 people, including myself, have rated Shady Rays 5 stars. And if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't worry about it. They have the best protection in all of eyewear. You can get a new pair backed, lost, or broken replacement guarantee. And if you don't love the shades that you buy, you can exchange them for a new pair or worry-free return them up to 30 days. So there's no risk for you when you shop. And PHLY listeners and viewers, head on over to shadyrays.com right now and save 35% off a pair of polarized sunglasses with the code PHLY. And find out why over 300,000 people have rated Shady Rays 5 stars and use that promo code PHLY for an opportunity to get 35% off your pair of polarized sunglasses. What's up, everybody? No, this is not going to be the end of a pharmaceutical commercial for the next 10 minutes. It is going to be a lot of sponsored segments, though. College can be stupid and expensive, peel and onions. I have, especially getting a degree in broadcast, I have maintained over the last couple of years, specifically since I've gotten out of school. Trade schools are excellent resources and cost you far less. So if you're, listen, I'm not going to get into my college spiel. I think college is important. I think if you are looking for a STEM degree, if you're looking for to get into teaching, all of those kind of things, college is super, super valuable. No doubt about it. But if you're like me and want to get a degree in broadcasting or fine arts or something like that, you can maybe find some other options. So I'm not going to tell you how to live your life or how to spend your money, but if you're looking for those type of funds, Monarch Money has you covered. All right, let's get to our Ace Hardware temperature check of the day as we check in on a Philly that is either heating up or cooling down for the Philadelphia Phillies. And today, who's heating up? Well, nobody really on the team because they didn't play particularly well this weekend. But I do want to pick on, I say pick on, like I feel like I'm picking on this guy because he's not the most of the Phillies' worries. He's not the problem for the Phillies. But a player that has cooled down a little bit over the last couple of weeks is Edmundo Sosa. We've talked about Sosa's hot start to the year. He was off to a torrid start to begin the year. But Sosa, since kind of playing every day in Bryce Harper's absence with Alec Bohm moving over to first, has sort of struggled in the last 2 weeks. So in the final 11 days of May, plus yesterday, he's gotten 10 starts. He was 4 for 5 against the Rockies on May 19th, but since that point, it has been a little bit of a struggle for Edmundo. He's 3 for 28, which is a 107 average. He has 0 extra base hits and 8 strikeouts. Now, my issue that I had with Edmundo Sosa in the past that didn't have any issues he was much better at early in the season is Edmundo Sosa is prone to high chase rates. Edmundo Sosa had a 38 or 39% chase rate last season, and he was in a much better spot early in the year. But now it's up to 42%, and it's actually worse than it was a season ago. Now, listen, I want to flat out say this. This is not a condemnation on Edmundo Sosa. I love Edmundo Sosa on this team, and I would absolutely do everything in my power to extend Sosa to be a bench piece for the Phillies for the next couple of seasons. His contract, I believe, is up at the end of this year. He may have one more year of arbitration. I don't know 100%, but he's closing in on becoming an unrestricted free agent. And I think it may be, one more year of arbitration next year, and then he's an unrestricted free agent in 2027. I would look to extend him. I would maybe buy out that final year of arbitration, give him a nice 2 or 3 year cushion. This year he made $3 million, so you're probably looking at four and some change next season. I would maybe say, hey, we'll give you five and a half for the next 3 years. It gives you some guaranteed money. It gives you some flexibility. You know you're not going anywhere. It's a good rate for us. It's a good rate for you. Understanding, and maybe add a player option to a club option to year 3 and kick it up to like $8 million in year 3. You can get creative with these things. But I would extend Edmundo Sosa right now. So again, this is not like me bashing the guy, but I like Edmundo Sosa for the role that he is. He's an upside utility guy. He's a guy who can play, 2, 3, maybe 3 times a week. But I think we've seen this over the last 2 years when Sosa plays over what we're expecting. He does get exposed a little bit. He's a versatile glove. He's a good bat. He's very good against left-handed pitching. But again, I think he whiffs and he chases too much to be an everyday player. So to me, he's the perfect utility, handcuff, super utility type of guy. Can play second, can play third, can play short. I know they were working on him in the outfield. We haven't seen him in left in quite some time. And understand that he forced Topper's hand a little bit early in the year because he was mashing against lefties. So it's unfair to ask Edmundo Sosa to be a 400 hitter. It's unfair to ask anybody to be a 400 hitter. But in the month of May, he is just hitting 238. And this is the month that he's gotten the most at-bats out of in either, I guess March really doesn't count, but more at-bats in May than he did in April. Again, of everything that took place this weekend, Edmundo Sosa is not a top 10 problem. But this is a paid segment, and I have to pick somebody. And I think he's kind of struggled a little bit over the last month or so. All right, one final segment here before we get out of here. Oh, wait, hold on real quick. I do want to just say congratulations, Peeling Onions. I don't know if that was a announcement or not, but congratulations to you, as it looks like Peeling Onions may be on the track to being a parent. So congratulations. That's awesome. And I know a lot of the people in the chat have already said it, but congratulations to you. All right, one final segment before we get out of here. Let's get to our big deal segment. Our big deal segment, which of course is brought to us by our friends over at Cherry Hill Jeep. Head on over to cherryhilljeep.com to shop 24/7, or just a short way over all of the bridges from Philly into Cherry Hill. I know why. I know that people buy they buy Jeeps elsewhere. I just don't know why you would buy it anywhere except with Cherry Hill Jeep. So let's get into our big deal segment of the day. And our big deal segment of the day is that Jose Ruiz is no longer on the Phillies 26-man roster. The Phillies made a move before Saturday's game. They DFA'd Ruiz. Before Sunday's game, they DFA Jose Ruiz and recalled Seth Johnson to take his spot on the roster. And the simple fact for Jose Ruiz this year, he just wasn't good. He had 16 appearances this year, an 8.16 ERA. He gave up 21 hits and 27 base runners in less than 15 innings pitched. He posted a near 1.9 whip this season so far. And he just it was a numbers game, and the numbers were pretty easy to determine that Jose Ruiz was the guy that was going to kind of fall on the sword after the bad outing that he had, and after the bad outing that the bullpen had and has, had over Saturday's game. It's unfortunate for Ruiz because last year, especially in the second half of the season, he was really reliable for this team. He was very, very good. In 2024 in total, he made 52 appearances, had a 3.71 ERA, struck out 52 in those 52 appearances, and had a 1.3 whip. But it was really in the second half that Ruiz earned the trust of Rob Thomson, and he made 25 appearances, had a 1.99 whip in the second half of the season, a sub 1.99 ERA, a sub 1.2 whip, and nearly had 11 strikeouts per 9 innings pitched. Now, I don't know about you, but my expectations for Jose Ruiz were nothing heading into last year, and he outperformed. And before we continue this conversation, I want to say thank you to everybody watching on our streaming platforms, our Roku, our Samsung, all of our streamers. Head on over to allphly.com to watch the remainder of the show, because it is officially time for overtime or extra innings. I talked to Julie and Jamie the other day, and they're all on board about changing this segment to extra innings for the Philly show and for our baseball shows across all City Network. I'm slowly getting them to make that decision. Going to take some time because we have a million hoops to jump through, and we got to get graphics done and whatnot. But it will eventually be called extra innings here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. Again, back to Ruiz. My expectations when they signed him to a minor league deal were like, okay, interesting. It's a guy who has major league experience. Could he make the roster this season? Maybe, maybe not. You know, he pitched okay in spring training. I believe he did not make the roster out of camp and then was called up at some point in 2024. I'm going to go try to find it for you. Yeah, I think I can't remember off the top of my head. I apologize. Whether he was, so he began the year in AAA. And he was good, and they brought him up on May 3rd, and he was with the team for the rest of the year. He was really good last year. And for a guy that they got for super cheap on a minor league deal and were able to keep because he had arbitration still, he signed a $1.2 million deal in arbitration this offseason. It was a good signing by Dave Dombrowski and the Phillies. It's unfortunate that it just didn't work out this year. He was a shell of the pitcher that he was last year. And as I said, it was a million and some change, so it's not like the Phillies are going to be left footing a huge bill. But it's unfortunate because this year just was not the same as he was last year. Now, there is a chance that he could end up back in Lehigh Valley if he doesn't get claimed. But does he get claimed? I'll be honest, probably not. I mean, teams are always in the need for bullpen help, but I'm not entirely sure if he's the answer. So does he get claimed? I don't know. But we'll see. All right, and that's just about going to wrap up the show. By the way, I do want to say really quickly, to DFA Jose Ruiz tells you how bad Jose Ruiz has been this year, because Carlos Hernandez has equally stunk. And I know Rob Thomson, I think spoke to Tim Kelly of On Patterson about it, or Tim Kelly asked him in the presser about it and said, "Hey, why is Hernandez still on the roster?" And Rob Thomson said he's throwing strikes, he throws hard. Like the whole he's got good stuff and throws hard thing obviously clearly has merit for Carlos Hernandez because he's been equally terrible. But Ruiz was the odd man out, and his numbers were awful, especially after giving up 5 runs on Saturday. All right, that's just going to wrap up today's show. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Molly and Barkley's Life, Peel and Onions, Filthy McNasty, Ray Schumacher, K-Red, Futz. Who else do we have? This is a very lively chat today. Just trying to scroll. Chief Black Sun, Player One in the Mad Cats. All of you. If I missed you, I'm sorry. Hello to you. If you were watching without being a member of the chat, that's okay too. A big thank you to you as well. Head on out. Before you head on out, hit that like button, hit the subscription notification, and get bell notifications for anything here at PHLY, whether it's just the Phillies or it's all of our PHLY shows. You can get notifications when every show goes live, like the PHLY Eagles show or the PHLY Sixers that are coming up at 3 o'clock. The PHLY Eagles show, I believe, is live from the Brian Dawkins charity golf event right now, so you don't want to miss that. So head on over to that, and then the Sixers will be on at 3. We'll be back on Wednesday for a live PHLY Phillies podcast, and then on Thursday, I have not talked to the bosses just yet, but because of the start time of Thursday's game, we may do a live PHLY pregame show on Thursday. So stay tuned for that, and then, of course, we'll be back on Friday as well. So thank you to everybody in the chat. Head on over to the other 2 shows that are left for today's docket, and we'll talk to you again on Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock right here on the PHLY Phillies podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. We'll see you on Wednesday.
We all silly like the mayor.